couple more people joining. Okay. Welcome, Neil. Welcome, Anya. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those folks who are just coming in, this session is called You Are the Story, and we have Molly and Callum here. Please feel free to turn on your cameras. It's an interactive session, so I was just mentioning there's a chat box at the bottom of your screen. I will read out the questions to people as the time goes, and we also have room at the end for questions too. In the chat box, it would be really helpful to hear a little bit as we're starting where you're calling in from and what you do. Are you a YouTuber? Is this something you're interested in? Are you an artist? What kind? Maybe you're not at all. Why? Yeah. So if you could write in the chat box a little bit where you're calling in from and what you do, that would be super helpful. And just a little bit of housekeeping before I begin. So my name is Jessica Fox. I am a filmmaker and a writer, and I work for Light, Dark, Light. And this is brought to you in conjunction with Light, Dark, Light and Highlands and Islands Enterprise. We're really grateful for them. And we're also grateful for Molly and Callum for being here. Molly and Callum both create content online, very different kinds of content. If you're not familiar with them, I will put the links in the chat box as well. Callum's videos I'm so intrigued by. They tend to be, I would think of you in like an explorer, Callum. You tend to like go and find these really interesting aspects of architecture or history that he gets to explore. And Molly's, I'm always been a huge fan of Molly's. Hers are very lyrical about the day to day and kind of slow living and lifestyle. And also, you were on an expedition recently. I saw that you had gone to thrift some books, which was that episode I really enjoyed too.
Mhm.
And they're both based in Scotland. So, Callum, Molly, welcome. Can you guys tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Who's going first?
You want
You
you
go
go
first,
first.
Molly.
You sure?
That's-
Yeah, I don't mind going first. Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Molly. So a little bit of background on me. I have lived in Scotland for about half my life. I've still got my like Southampton accent because I was living down south in England until I was about 6 or 7. And then I grew up a lot of my childhood on the Isle of Arran off the west coast of Scotland. And I moved up to Scottish Highlands in around 2018. And I've been here ever since. So I'm currently based near Inverness, and I live in a tiny home that my partner, primarily my partner, I helped a little bit, built for us. And we're up here on a farm, parked up here now. And in terms of what I do, I originally was a wildlife conservationist. That's what moved me up to the Highlands when I worked for the RSPB. And as much as I love that job, I'm still very passionate about nature. I really found that I'm much more suited to being one self-employed and also doing something a bit more creative. So in 2023, I transitioned to being full-time on my creative work, which now is a YouTube channel and also a Substack. So on my YouTube, I post videos, and on my Substack, it's primarily writing with a little bit of videos. I'm Molly Yellow across both those platforms now. And I'm also writing my debut book, which is due to be published in spring 2027. And it's the Scottish art of living slowly. So that kind of sums me up anyway.
All right, my audio went out there for a second. Yeah, my name's Callum Gillis. Born and raised on the Isle of Rassay, which is where I am currently right now. And I've been primarily, I call myself a YouTuber. I do cringe slightly at at the term. It's a bit like influencer or anything else. But I've been doing this now full time since around 2022. For many years, I worked doing marketing and photography at the Isle of Rassay distillery, which opened in 2017. So I came back for that. I'd lived in Orkney for a year, but prior to that, college and university. But I've been making videos on my YouTube channel and various things since I think 2010, which maybe shows my age slightly. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time. It wasn't until 2022 that I sort of found my niche, which is currently, yeah, I struggle sometimes to define it, but video documentaries on history, engineering, I have a second channel where I focus, or I'm trying to focus more on RASA-based stuff because my interest primarily actually is Scotland and the Scottish Highlands. It's just that I sort of fell into this niche on my second channel of engineering and everything else. But I'm currently trying to build my house, so I'm sort of trying to diversify, I suppose, my output at the moment as well too. But yeah, that's me primarily. Like I say, the main the main kind of transition when I went from just kind of doing this in my spare time was around 2022, and since 2022, I've been full time on YouTube. It's my main slash sole source of income, really, aside from some freelance stuff and the like.
That transition between I'm going to try this out, see where it goes, versus actually having a full time gig out of it, was that economical? It's like, oh, I'm actually making enough now from these various channels to be able to do this full time. Was that the difference?
Mm, it's a it's tricky knowing that moment to jump. It was actually my now wife that convinced me to try. She was like, you know, you need to try. I made a video. This is going to sound very specific, but I made a video about the history of the jerry can, which is like a little fuel container. And for some reason, this was obviously during COVID and lockdown. I think there was more eyeballs on the internet in general then. The video blew up. And I think I earned £10,000 off that video over the course of
Wow.
about 2 weeks, and that was that was a third of my salary at the distillery at the time, and I suddenly realized there was potential for it. But um, I was quite lucky because there was this moment where suddenly the chart went up. I think the biggest challenge I'd imagine, um, in many of you in here, if you're trying to do something similar, Molly, I imagine you've gone through similar things, trying to know when to make that leap to say that I'm full time doing this, or I can dedicate my time to this because I can create the income from it. I think that's one of the more difficult things. I'm not really a jumping into something kind of person. I'm very careful and reserved when it comes to that. So that was by far the most difficult decision I made. Really, I'm lucky that my wife pushed me to do it. It's her to thank, really, for the fact that I'm doing this full time.
Cool. Thanks, Callum. Molly, what do you think?
Yeah, I was the same. I was a bit nervous and cautious, but I worked both businesses for both jobs really for a while. Because I started writing online in 2020. So my dog keeps poking at me, wanting attention.
I'm the exact
Um,
same. I've got to be very careful. I don't trigger her.
And it wasn't, yeah, until 2023 that I was thinking I was making enough to just, particularly as I lived in a tiny home, my costs were lower to make that my full-time job. And I did find as soon as I was able to actually make it my full-time job, my income did increase, which you'd probably imagine just because I had that bit more time. But yeah, similarly, like I had a few videos that did better and earned a lot more than like my normal videos, like my original tiny home tour that did really well. And then I've had another one about why I chose slow living over the hustle culture. And they continue to earn money. That's the great thing about YouTube is these videos will continue to earn money, which is not probably won't be the same amount. But yeah, it's always a little bit of mix. There's the sort of videos that do normal, and then you've got a few that just help you sort of go up a little bit more quickly.
And
That's definitely the thing that people don't appreciate enough about YouTube compared to other platforms is that if you
Mm.
have a good video and it has legs, as they often say, or it's got longevity, it will keep earning you money. That video I mentioned there about the jerry can earned me £10,000 in the first month. I think over its lifetime, it's now earned me 25,000 pounds. So it's something to keep in mind compared to any other social media platform. Like I wouldn't consider YouTube social media, like we are saying with Substack and stuff. They're a bit different. But Instagram, Twitter, you can't really make that much money on Twitter, Facebook and stuff. They're not going to get you that same sort of guaranteed income, I suppose you could say, month to month, week to week. Biggest advantage with YouTube, definitely.
It's just
when
kind of
you guys,
evergreen
when you guys
content
Yeah,
are
as well.
making
So it's
these,
something that is really niche to a specific time.
yeah.
But if it is, yeah, a bit more of a general, then yeah, it's great. It's
yeah.
it's more sustainable.
Evergreen. That's the word I was looking for. That's the best way to describe it. You make an evergreen video. That's what every YouTuber wants to make.
We have people coming from a variety of different areas. If you look in the chat box, there are people who are doing holiday homes, there are people who work in heritage, there are people who work in healthcare. And so I really do want to get into the weeds of the power of YouTube because you guys know the algorithms better than most or know how to engage audiences. But first, I want to start with the storytelling because that seems to be what connects everybody here today about like really how to tell a good story. Callum and Molly, when you guys were putting out those videos that really launched themselves for you, and you're like, oh, maybe this could be a thing, did you anticipate this is going to be a winning story? Have you figured out what makes a winning story, or do you feel like it depends, it's luck, or is it really about your audience?
Mm, it's a bit of everything, to be honest. I'm not gonna, yeah, I, so when I filmed my first tiny home tour, which was, I think was my second video on YouTube, first of all, it didn't go off straight away. It was a month later that it seemed to be picked up for some bizarre reason. And I knew that tiny home tours and like van tours and things like that were fairly popular, but I didn't know for sure that this would be a popular one, especially it was so like soon in my career. So yeah, that was a little bit of a surprise, a nice surprise. That's what got me monetized, that video. And then others, I mean, I always try and it's that fine line of picking a video that I'm genuinely interested in and it's authentic to me and my lifestyle because my work is very aligned to my life and my lifestyle. And also that I feel like there is interest in. So when I did the video about slow living, um, at that time, it was still quite new and but there seemed to be like a growing interest in it. So I just thought I'd put my take on it. But yeah, I could never say for sure. I don't know if you think what you think, Callum, but I can never know for sure what's gonna do well, but I can hedge my bets a little bit to think, okay, this one might do a bit more. And even like with my work now, I'm trying to alternate between on my YouTube, I'll do a video that's a little bit more day in my life, general vlog, which my existing audience I think prefer. But if I want to draw in a new audience, then I might be a bit more targeted. Like I might share a certain area in Scotland, or I might do like a routine video. So yeah, it's balancing your existing with you with a new audience. Can be quite
Yeah.
challenging. I enjoy
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think that's the kernel struggle of somebody on, well, online or anything, is that you never know what's going to do well. And if, for example, we might talk about it later, say you've taken a sponsor, you might go, right, well, I'm going to put this sponsor onto this video because I know this subject will do well, and it falls completely flat on its face. And then you release something that you have not spent any time or effort on, and it blows up and becomes the biggest video ever. And you trying to obviously predict those things is probably one of the most frustrating elements of all of this. There's someone I know who does YouTube. I've worked with him now and then, and he always says that effort's not proportional to success. YouTube's unfortunately, and social media in general. I keep saying YouTube because it's my primary thing. I think you could apply this to Instagram and stuff. Unfortunately, these platforms are very capitalist. They don't really care about the amount of effort you necessarily put in. Viewers can, but often the thing that you put the least amount of effort into turns into the most, that jerry can video that I mentioned. I didn't even intend to release that as a video on my channel. It was going to be this little short video I made as an exclusive for my Patreon, which is a form of income. And I happened to release it on my channel. And again, similar to what you said there, Molly, it didn't do anything for 2 or 3 weeks, and then all of a sudden it just blew up. So I went into it going, well, this video is no use, and then I put it out, and it got all right interest. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what I expected. Then it blew up, and you start going, oh, well, maybe there was something in that. And I've tried to almost replicate its success by recreating the intro, or the way I introduce it in a script or the subject. And sometimes it's worked and sometimes it's just not, it's the constant frustration I always find. It's the thing I think that frustrates me the most because I don't obviously want to think about metrics and how things do because that's not the way to judge your work. But if you are running it as a business, unfortunately, that is how you sometimes have to think about these things as well too. It's the eternal struggle of being a creative like that and trying to make money off being a creative. But yeah,
Molly, I see you nodding away. Do you
Yeah,
relate?
it is frustrating. I think it definitely felt more frustrating earlier on, and also when I was just less confident. I was like, oh,
Mm.
you overthink it and you question things. Um, I think as I've got more established and more confident in my voice, I try and just not get too steered by the metrics, but be mindful of it.
Yeah,
So I won't miss out on an obvious opportunity. Like, when I mention my tiny home, it does well. So I'll make sure I put that in a title, for instance. Like, I'm not going to undermine myself by like just ignoring it and being like, no, I want to do exactly what I want to do because yeah, it's my full-time job as well. So it can be, you want to capitalize on something that is done well, but you don't want to keep I often see that online. If a YouTuber, again, YouTube's my main thing, so I keep referencing to it. If a YouTuber does well on a certain video, you'll find sometimes they keep doing very similar
Mm,
videos, and it almost looks a bit like inauthentic because you really think they're
mm,
pushing that too much, or they're overdoing it when you're like, maybe the first video that was enough. You didn't need to keep
Yeah.
capitalizing on that. So yeah, it's the balance between making sure you're not missing out on opportunities, but not being completely dictated by these metrics, because also algorithms and interests change. So it's not always going to do as well as it did at that point in
True.
time.
So, okay, there is the art of storytelling for YouTube, which we're going to dive into because both of you plan beautifully. Like they're like watching short films. They're really, really amazing. And I can imagine you, Callum, you mentioned the effort. Like I can only imagine the amount of effort that it takes to create one of your videos. But there's also the dark arts of packaging it for YouTube. There's like you mentioned, Molly, like the title that you choose. I've noticed there's some YouTubers I really love, but their landing image is like way sexier than the content is. And I was like, I didn't know if that's like a thing. There's like the back end hashtags that you use. There's the timing at which you upload on YouTube. It feels like alchemy, especially to people who aren't embedded in that world. So if you were going to create a pie chart of like the percentage of success, like how much is it the story you tell and how much is it the packaging, knowing like how, when, what hashtags, what image to put on YouTube?
mm. Yeah, um I'll be a bit controversial, I suppose, and say that I actually think YouTube is very good, or people on YouTube. And one thing I think is really important, get away from the idea of the algorithm sometimes. You
Okay.
are serving a video to people. And if those people like your video, they don't even have to necessarily share it through YouTube likes and stuff. They could literally email it to a friend or send it to someone, So, if you're thinking about people, I think sometimes people are very good at judging a video. And I think that thumbnails and titles, hashtag, description, time of posting, I think that is 5% of the chart.
Wow.
I
Okay.
think the first 30 seconds of your video is massive. And I think that the way that you structure, say, the first 20 minutes and then honesty, having an honest video that you're not misleading people on, that you yourself are confident in your presentation of, that is actually sharing something is that is valuable and worth that person's time. That's the most important thing. I do genuinely believe that. And I do think, and I get quite annoyed at a lot of so-called YouTube experts who will obsess over telling you about your thumbnails and your titles and your descriptions, which are important, but then you'll talk to a lot of these YouTubers and they've never watched a documentary. They've never thought about editing. They've never thought about their set or their lighting or any of these things. They focus on the set dressing rather than the actual content that they're making. Um, I might be going a bit too far in that. Thumbnails and stuff can make or break a video at the end of the day. They
Yeah.
can, but I think people sometimes miss the forest through the trees in that way, and they obsess over like, oh well, what went wrong in my video? Well, the title or the time I uploaded it or this person not interesting. But maybe you need to look at your video itself and the content and go like, is this the best video I could make? Is this the best content that I can create? I made a video quite recently on my channel last year, and it was a 1 hour 20-minute video about a balloon expedition to the Arctic that was this complete disaster, and it was slow, and there was barely any music in it, and it was months and months of work. It was years of research for me, and it had a pretty boring title and thumbnail, but it's done really well over time, and
Oh,
I think it's
interesting.
because people have watched it. I got so many positive comments. And I think people are just genuinely sharing it and genuinely engaging
Yeah,
in
it's
it.
about the
And that's a
integrity.
harder thing to track sometimes, in the algorithms. But yeah, so I get a bit passionate about this sometimes because I
That's
do think people
good.
sometimes miss the art of making a video for all the little stuff around it, thumbnails and titles and
Yeah.
tags and that kind of thing.
Brilliant. Callum, thank you so much. It is about the integrity in which you make something. I had a film teacher who came into class and he goes, honestly, you make what you like and hopefully other people like it too. And then he left. He like never came back to class. So he made his point. But Molly, tell us about your perspective.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I also get not frustrated because I was the same. Like, well, I think when you first start, immediately you're like on YouTube or how to grow a YouTube channel or like
Mm,
top tricks to go viral or whatever, and then it's not really an easy route because it's all about your craft. And it's the same with my writing. I'm probably a writer first. That's where I still put most of my effort. That's like my heart project. But I put most of my effort into creating video that I can be really proud of and I think is valuable in some way. I do think obviously you can't ignore the other stuff. But I think I agree, like the beginning of your video and I'd also say a thumbnail because you can make the best video in the world, but if you have a really blurry thumbnail, no one's going to look at it. So I'd say that's more important than stuff like hashtags, keywords. But then I'm not an expert. This is just from my own experience. Upload time, I just picked one and I stuck to that because I like to think of my YouTube channel as almost like a TV show when I was younger. I would really look forward to watching my, I don't know, whatever, Gossip Girl or something episode that's coming out at a certain time. So I think I'm serving the people first and then just making sure I don't make any obvious errors with the algorithm. I think that's the way I try and approach it, rather than getting too focused on the small things. I think it is a little bit being honest with yourself because I think we've all been there like, oh, it's because I didn't upload at the right time. And then I look back and I'm like, no, it's just a bit of a rubbish video. Like it just was a bit of a rubbish video. Like putting all that time into trying to figure out a hack, I'd rather put that time into just making my work better, learning, upskilling, practicing. Because you are going to put out some stuff that's not as good because that's just life and also just learning and that's okay, but as long as you're honest with yourself, that is the reason why that's not maybe done as well. That's the important thing because then you can learn from that.
Well, I have to say, you two are so successful at that. Like, if I have time between meetings or at the end of the day, I'm like, I get to watch Molly's video or I get to see another one Callum's put out. And like, I didn't even know I wanted to see a floating buoy rescue place, but now I do, thanks to Callum. So, you both talk a lot about craft. And so I want to dive into your craft a lot. Both of you are fantastic storytellers and you use totally different techniques. Callum, I am blown away by like the amount of graphics you use like to describe things and seamlessly. It's like you're basically watching a really exciting BBC documentary and you're the storyteller, you're the adventurer, and it's amazing. And Molly, yours looks like short films. You like walk from point A to point B, and I'm like, did you have to like run, set up the camera, like go back, like act like
Yes.
if it's a fresh walk? I'm trying to like
The most
piece it together
embarrassing
in my
bit.
head because it's so seamless. So like even like when you were shopping around a bookstore, I'm like, you would have had to run in, set up that camera, then look at the books. So tell us, whoever wants to go first, a little bit about the planning that goes into your. Do you write it down as a script first? Tell us a little bit about your process.
um I do plan. I do a mix. I'm a planner at heart. So I do plan every video over different, like I plan over like my month ahead. I plan over different seasons. And then when it comes to each video, I tend to have a shot list
Okay.
generally, just like these are the kind of things I want to include. And then within that, I might have specific things like, for instance, I want to make sure I've got like if I am book shopping, for instance, I think it's at least I watch a lot of shopping videos. It's more engaging if you actually see the person in the bookshop, as much as it can be a bit awkward to get your camera out when people are book shopping. It's useful to have those kind of shots. And then I'm also thinking, okay, that could be a useful image for my thumbnail. So I try and keep
Yeah.
like little notes for myself
Okay.
in like a notepad or something when I'm out and about or plan ahead. And that helps. I don't really, the only thing I will script or loosely script will be any brand deal or anything I've got to say anything specific about, just so that's just part of like the contracts of working with brands and stuff. But otherwise I just make quite like notes of stuff of what I want to achieve. And in terms, I like my videos to feel quite intimate, the kind of thing that you like, it feels like you're there with me, and quite gentle. I think a lot of people come to my channel for just that little bit of escapism.
Yeah.
um I like to think that also they're quite interested and inspired by some of the stuff I do, but also it's just like a gentle way to maybe wind down. Because that's why I watch a lot of YouTube. That's what I enjoy. So that's what I
Well, I
try
have to
and
say
put
you're
out
so
there.
successful at that because I was like, my day out looking at books was not as relaxing as watching Molly's day out of looking at books. So that definitely you've achieved that.
The production of those videos always I always think I do not have the confidence to set up a camera in a shop and walk in and walk out and then walk back in. I cannot do that. Every time I watch those videos, I'm always like, Matt, I always think I'd love to make more videos like that or like hiking videos where you're out and about. can't be bothered setting up a camera and then walking back and then walking past the camera and then having to go back and then break it down and then you move on to the next shot. I'm not a very good planner at all. I'm
Wow.
terrible at planning. In fact, that you can see this is my notebook here with my plan. You can actually literally see the date that I had to remember to turn up to this event. I'm not a very good um, producer. This has always been my problem. So my writing process. I tend to write an entire script in one go over the course of maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not very good at constructing them, over time. Sometimes, though, these are videos that are years in the making because I'm having to read books and find stuff. Most of my videos, if I'm traveling to a location, it could have been a year or 2 years beforehand. Um, when it when it comes to the actual edit, that's where I find things get a little bit easier for me because I work quite holistically when I can get into Premiere, which is what I use to edit Adobe Premiere. I can assemble things better. My mind starts to work a lot better then. But when it comes to the actual producing things out, shot lists, I completely fall apart. It's just not my game at all. And it should give you some confidence because if any of you have seen my videos or you like the style of my videos, just know that if I can make a video like that with my scatterbrain and my terrible approach to production, literally anyone can. I tend to use, if anyone's wondering, if you're watching any of my videos, it tends to be Adobe Premiere, Photoshop, and Adobe After Effects, the Adobe suite that I use. Because, as Jessica mentioned, that I use quite a lot of graphics and hand animated stuff, and so I need the entire Adobe suite in there. But yeah, my production is very very chaotic. The other problem is I'm usually working on 3 or 4 videos at a time in terms of the script, and I'm trying to like pull in
Yeah.
different scripts and different things together. So yeah, I do have a second channel where I'm building a house at the moment. I've been trying to film that, and it's the same thing. I hate setting up cameras and then having to film myself doing something and breaking the camera down and all that. But that's my aim for this year is to get better at that side of things.
That's so good. That really surprised me. So a lot of what comes together is in the editing, in terms of the shape and the.
Yeah, yeah. I would say, my scripts are often 10 to 20 to 30% longer than they end up being in the final finished product. I'm cutting constantly. I'll move things around. Um, I like to record my entire script in one go because I don't like you can sometimes tell when somebody's delivering a script in different ways and in different tones. Somebody recording a script in the morning sounds completely different to the evening. So I try to record everything in one go. It can get quite messy then if you're,
Yeah.
cutting and chopping and changing. But sometimes the entire context of the video can change within the edit, if that makes sense. You suddenly find, one element of it's more interesting to talk about or something like that. I think one thing I would say maybe if you're making content is what you imagine in your head and what you're writing down can be very different to what it then looks like in the edit. So,
Mm.
it's well, writers, I suppose, are better at this. You've got to be able to kill your darlings. You've got to be able to edit and be willing to cut stuff out that doesn't work, even though you've spent loads of time on it. That's, I think, one of the most important things. That's the thing I struggle with again quite a lot because you spend a lot of time on something and you're like, well, I want to show this off, but sometimes that isn't very good for the overall flow of the video or whatever.
Wow. There's so much, traditional filmmaking, maybe you're lucky to make one every 2 years, every 3 years. The frequency that you guys are making stuff, the amount of work that goes in from filming, lighting, sound, editing is mind boggling to me. Do you do it all? Are you one man bands? Do you outsource? Do you recommend teaming up with people to be able to produce at this rate?
I mean, you
Mm.
can. I don't. Don't know about you, Callum.
Yeah,
I
no, one man band. That's the way to do
yeah.
it.
I think it's just a finance thing. That's the reason. Part of me would like. I often get emails coming in, or I can do your thumbnails. That kind of sort of stuff that is like not that exciting, and maybe because again, like I'm not a graphic designer. I've not got any training at any of this. It's all just self-taught. Um, So sure, it would be quite useful to do that. And I often watch actually content creators online. They often end up working with like their partners or their family members, help them out a lot. My partners help me occasionally when it's quite literally like, can you just hold this camera and be my tripod for a second. But yeah, no, it's definitely just a one person thing. And I think it's you don't have to use all of the tools, all the specialist tools straight away. So when I started, I didn't really want to put too much money into it until I was earning money. So I used Lightworks, which is a free video
Mm.
editor. I used the free version of Canva for my thumbnails. And I think I just used what was in my phone for like photo editing. I now use Adobe, I pay for Canva. Um, so I have a bit, and I pay for like Epidemic Sound. Like audio is one of
Mm.
the things I spend the most time on my videos, probably. Like in terms of, I really like to balance what I call my silent elements. They're not silent because you're seeing like my making a cup of tea, getting all that kind of audio in there, so it feels more immersive. But then I want a bit of music, but then I want the right music at the right. I spent ages to be honest choosing like the right music to complement what's on screen and then transitioning them. Like I really enjoy that part of it, and I think it makes quite a big difference to the quality of my videos because I'd say like I'm still not the best filmmaker because I put a lot more effort into my writing than my filmmaking. But yeah, it's you don't have to start with all the expensive things. You can
That's a good
really just
point.
start with a phone, especially these days. Like most phones, got great cameras on them, so you can
Mm.
really just start with that.
Yeah.
Epidemic Sound is great. I also use if you're looking for a good website for stock. Well, they do sound effects and everything, but stock music. Um, I would say that's probably one of the more valuable subscriptions. And also remember with YouTube, especially with YouTube, but other platforms too, if you use music that you don't have permission to, the video can be demonetized in that you won't make any money off it, but the rights holders to the music will. So if you went and took music, say off Molly's video, a section like that, and used it in your own video, it might get flagged. When you sign up to something like Epidemic Sound, you basically get a license to use it. And I think it takes the kind of stress out of finding music and stuff like that a lot.
Cal, can you
Yeah.
repeat and spell the that stock website for
I've
folks?
got. I think I'm. I'm in the middle of editing right now, so I actually have the website up. So I'll copy and paste it into the
Thank
chat.
you.
I also use another one called Storyblocks, but I find that Epidemic is much better for
Epidemic.
music because you can search certain stems and styles and stuff. On working with other people, I would work with other people if I had, there's only 180 people on RASI. If anyone else on the island knew how to edit videos, I'd probably ask them for some help or something. My problem, a bit like you were talking about there, Molly. I'm self-taught too. I never learned any of this stuff elsewhere. So I've found that when I've tried to work with editors who are professionally trained, it's like it's like presenting a it's like I'm giving them something and they don't even know what to do with it. It's like art made by an elephant or something. Like it's just who on earth, like they can't work out like all my strange ways of editing and stuff. I have worked with artists in the past to make 3D models for my videos. But again, as Molly says, cost's a big thing. One of the guys who works for me or makes 3D models for my videos, the Rescue Boy was one that he did. He did that in his spare time at a heavily discounted rate, and it still cost $3,500 to create that. Now,
Oh wow.
that's a big gamble. You don't know if that video is going to do well. You could get. I was lucky to have a sponsor that covered the cost of that video, but I'd wipe my face and that was it. So luckily that video did very well. But it's a constant gamble. Um, I, I think that working by yourself though, at least then removes the stress of having to manage people. Like if at the end of the day, if the way we work, if we are at the top of the pile, if you then have to become a producer, coordinating with editors and giving feedback on writing and stuff like that, suddenly you're becoming more of a manager and less of the thing that you want to do, which is creating and being creative. So uh, I think it's a double-edged sword. I know loads of people who work with editors at my level. Most people I know who are kind of at a similar level to me with income and views often have a backup editor and stuff. But I don't have the consistency in my videos to upload it and stuff and guarantee that. The only employee I have is my wife is the producer. She organizes all the stuff, keeps me on track. She does all the finances, and because we travel a lot, she loves to organize travel, so she
It's
figures
a
all of
very
that
good
out. So
partnership.
it's the only thing that makes this whole channel work, I tell you. Because for anyone that's wondering how it works, I have a limited we have a limited company. That's how we started this back in 2022. Limited company. I'm a director and employee. She's a director and employee. And I will say, if you're trying to go full time, I don't know how you do it, Molly. I found that moving from being a sole trader in HMRC's eyes to having a limited company was much easier. Suddenly, I could split the bank accounts. I found all of that a lot easier, and I found that kind of like, okay, now it's real. Now I'm going in. Now we're starting something proper. So yeah, sorry, I went a bit off topic there, but that is
Mm,
that is something I found very useful in the early days.
that's super helpful, Molly. Do you relate to that? Is that something that you've grown into?
Yeah, I'm well in terms of this, I'm still just a sole trader at the moment. But yeah, I'm trying to think. The only time I've considered and will still consider potentially bringing on someone else would actually be like a brand manager, like
Mm.
for my sponsorship work, because that isn't something that interests me at all in terms of just the admin side of it. And I also know that if I did bring on an agency, I probably could get paid a lot more than I do
Mm.
for brand deals and get more. But
Yeah.
I think at the moment I'm only able to work with brands at a at least whilst I'm writing my book, low capacity. So yeah, in the future, that would be the first thing I'd bring on. Everything else, yeah, I want to be the one creative. I'm also very I don't like anyone else's way of doing it. Like I know what I want to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
with my videos. So I'd be like, yeah, there'd be a trust issue there in terms of because it is my life I'm sharing a lot of the time. So I'm like, oh, what, like,
I can understand
yeah,
that.
there'd be a bit of a
You're
trust issue.
not a creative person unless you're not wanting to work with anyone else. That's
Yeah.
like day one of being a creative is like, right, I want to do my own thing. I will. That's something I should mention too. I back in 2020, 2021, I got in contact with this guy. I've never met him. He's this amazing guy who lives in Utah, and he is my brand manager. He sets up. He's got a little small company out there, and he
Wow.
organizes all my brand deals. And it was the best thing I ever did because
Wow.
I can't negotiate a price. I don't know how much my videos are worth to a sponsor, but I do know that he does, and he is willing to get the best price. And the amount of money he charges, the percentage he takes off, is far less than I would have ever been able to negotiate, even if that makes sense. So that is one thing that I found incredibly useful. If you do again get to a level where you're trying to consistently book and stuff, um taking that out of your that taking that out of your hands is mental. As for context, if you went back in time to my videos, the very first sponsor I took was on that jerry can video, and I got £2,000 for it, and I thought that was biggest thing in the world. I was like, oh my god, I got £2,000 sponsorship for this video. um Jared, the guy who does my sponsors at that time, that this was during 2021, 22, the money was flying around everywhere in advertising. He told me that if he had negotiated that, they probably would have got that sponsor for £20,000. So
Oh my gosh.
his cut would have been about a grand. So for context, the scale that some of these YouTube channels are working at is beyond. But I do not get £20,000 per sponsor. I'll clarify that now. But it shows you the scale that some of these places are working to. It's
That's
unbelievable the amount of money that's
wild.
floating around YouTube. So
That's
yeah, a brand manager like that's very very useful.
Well, you two are, it's such an amazing experience having you both here. You're so honest and open about the process, and we have questions coming in thick and fast. So I promise I will get to them in the chat box. But just to close out YouTube, because you guys do things beyond as well, to be considered a YouTuber for actually making a living off of it, how frequently do you guys make videos? How frequently do you need to publish?
I think it would depend on how much you're kind of making for each video and what you shoot. So I know it's a really annoying answer because it's always like, oh, it depends. But I think what the kind of niche I'm in, it tends to be weekly.
Okay.
I've been pushed back to every other week since I've been writing my book,
Mhm.
but I will go back probably next month when my book's submitted, to once a week, and that seems to work for me in terms of just
Wow.
keeping consistent interest there. Financially, that seems to work for me. Yeah,
Okay.
don't know about you, Callum.
Okay.
I don't know how
That's
often you
really that's
Yeah,
film.
really good.
this is it's quite interesting because I think we're the opposite, both opposite ends of the scale. You know, there are some YouTubers that upload like daily, but I mean that is quite rare. I think weekly is often the for consistency is the best. I wouldn't say from an algorithm point of view. I do genuinely think that YouTube doesn't care too much about the how regularly you upload, but your viewers do, and that's where, like you say, it's like a TV show. People will come back. The human beings will. Maybe the YouTube doesn't notice it as much. I'm just checking because I haven't noticed there in 2025 I uploaded only 5 videos. So
Wow.
we had a baby in June, so that knocked us out slightly. But I tend to upload seven, 5 to 7 videos a year, and that's what I've been doing since 2022.
Wow.
This year, I still haven't uploaded a video, and I'm well overdue. It's mainly because I've been working on the house. Um, I, it's funny. It's the grass is always greener. I hate how little I upload. I find it so frustrating because I feel like I am constantly overrunning. My edits take way longer than I expect them to. Everything takes way too long. I want to be uploading every month. But then I talk to friends who do that and they're like, oh, wish I could be you, where you could just take your time and upload a video whenever you want. So it's like, you it is whatever works for you. I would like to get more frequent with my uploads. I'd love to get to one a month or one every 5 weeks. That would be perfect for me. It's just between the house and the baby and the topics that I'm on right now that things have started getting away from me. It shouldn't matter though. I will say this from YouTube's point of view, they will stress this constantly, and whether you believe them exactly is up to you. But YouTube has gone on record numerous times and they said it does not matter how your last video performed when you uploaded last. Those two things are blind to the algorithm, as they say. But I do think it makes a difference. If your last video didn't do very well, it's because less of your viewers maybe watched it. And as a person, they might be less likely to watch it the next time. And if you upload infrequently, a real person is probably going to be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that person. It was like 3 months ago that they uploaded last. Or I normally watch them every Wednesday and I missed a Wednesday and I kind of fell out of the habit. So um, you can upload whenever you want, but I do think you will probably have more success if you can stick to a consistent upload schedule, whether that's every month, every 3 months, every week, every day. Mm. But in theory, YouTube wants it is that you should be able to just like make what you want to make, put it up, and then they deal with the rest. But that's what they say anyway.
I just want to highlight how inspiring you both are. You've figured out how to carve a very unique career in a place that you want to live. It's not like you're in the middle of a city. So you're able to create the things you want to create in a self sustaining way in the place you want to be. And I think for a lot of people on this call, that kind of is the dream that they can live where they want to live and make what they want to make. In order to be totally transparent about that, there are things, and I promise I will get to your questions, but there are things beyond YouTube. There's a very fancy term called platform stacking, where you do YouTube, but you can also do Substack. And Molly, you've mentioned you're writing a lot, and I know that's very key to like your artistic voice and your heart. So can you tell us a little bit about the other things that you do, how they tie into YouTube, and maybe like are they taking over in terms of your income and your business, or are they kind of balanced?
Yeah. Um, so I started, well, right back in 2020, I started a blog. That's where I started. And then I got sidetracked with Instagram for a year or so there and tried to make it work and kind of did make it work in the sense that I got quite a few followers, but I didn't enjoy it as a platform. I didn't feel like it suited me, the kind of stuff I wanted to do. I just was not, it just gave me the ick. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So then I started my YouTube. I also started my Substack in 2022, and now my Substack earns more most of the time than my YouTube does, unless I've got a brand deal that's paying a bit more in that month. But generally, my Substack earns more. So I write one post, like an article. I've written an article every Monday on there that's free to read, but I get my money from a paid membership. So it's kind of like Patreon, which has been going on for a lot longer. That's how I kind of treat it. But I didn't really want to do Patreon because I wanted to do more writing. Whereas that Substack, if you don't know the platform, that's how it started. It was meant to be sort of just like a newsletter article writing place for writers. It's ever expanding, it's growing loads. You could do all
Podcasts on
sorts
it.
on
You can
there.
do video on it now,
You
can't
can
you?
do video, you can do podcasts, you can do lives. They've got like a notes feature, which is kind of like Twitter, which I'm not that keen on, to be honest. But you can do like, they're trying to, I think at the moment they're balancing quite well. They're trying to remain authentic to their original goals in the sense they don't want to do stuff to do with ads, they don't want to do stuff to do with algorithms, things like that. But they also want to provide what people now expect to be able to do in these kind of spaces, the tools that people expect. So yeah, I do my month. So what every week I'll do something free, and then at least twice a month I'll do something for my paid membership. It's usually
Okay.
like one video and then one written something or other. And it's
Oh,
all
that's
I
so
kind of
much
do that as like the
work.
behind.
That's so much work, Molly. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to do it as much as that, but that's
It's
again, that's just the
amazing.
balance that works for me. And I'm yeah, so that's basically how I make my money through Substack. It's just that one payment, but you get quite a good percentage from each person that subscribes. So you can
Wow.
subscribe either annually or you can subscribe monthly. And then there's my YouTube, and that's really it. I mean, I have add-ons, like I have a buy me a coffee page that I can link in my YouTube
Okay.
and my Substack. And obviously I work with brands. I only work with brands on my YouTube. I don't work with brands on my Substack. And then there's the odd bit of affiliate marketing in there. But that's kind of the suite of where I produce online.
Do you still
I'm
have a
writing a
shop?
book.
Do you still have an Etsy shop or no?
No, I don't have an Etsy shop
Okay.
at the moment, but that did work quite well for me. But I feel like it was taking too much time
Okay.
for how much I was getting from it. But yeah, I've done that in the past. I technically still have a merchandise site on Tmall that trickles in occasionally. I forget I have all these things
That's
because it's
amazing.
hard just to earn money from like one thing these days.
Yeah.
Like having multiple platforms, but not too many that you're not doing. So it's finding your sort of sweet spot, because if you have too many, I found the content across all of it went down because I was trying to do too much, or I was spending too much time promoting the work rather than, like we said kind of at the beginning, rather than putting the money actually into the craft. So yeah, I found like a balance that seemed to work quite well. That I could be consistent, but still putting out stuff that I think is of decent quality.
Brilliant. Thanks, Molly. And Callum.
Yeah, I think I think Substack is the if you want to make a living online outside of YouTube, I think Substack is going to be well, it already is a big thing, but I think it's going to be the major platform. I've always wanted to try, and it's something I've been wanting to try and get onto myself as well too, because I write a lot of script, I write a lot of stuff that doesn't get used. And I've always wanted to kind of just like use it as a place that I can adapt scripts into articles and offer something more as an offering over there. Um, Generally, though, I don't really use my social media to promote my YouTube channel. My Instagram account is just my personal Instagram account. Like I don't really post there. I post my photos because I do quite a lot of photography. My Twitter account I've had for years, and I never use it. I just post constantly photos and videos from Rase, and I don't think anyone that follows me on Twitter probably even knows I have a YouTube channel, if that makes sense. I would say that outside of maybe Substack and Patreon, a lot of social media places kind of don't like YouTube. Like they don't really like you. If you share that you've got a new video on Twitter, it's probably going to go nowhere. People don't. Twitter want you to post videos to their platform or whatever, if that makes sense. And so I've sort of pulled back on trying to use other platforms to bother promoting my
Okay.
YouTube channel, if that makes sense. Because it's a little bit like the whole thing we're talking about tags and thumbnails. Anytime I could spend dedicating to social media, I could probably spend that time better making something for my YouTube channel. Or writing and adapting something for, say, like Substack or something like that. So I think for YouTube as a platform, think of it not as social media, one, but two, I don't think it really works that well sometimes trying to promote outside it. I have, like I say, my YouTube channel. I do have a Patreon. I don't use it very much. I do specify on my thing. It's like, look, you can just contribute whatever you want. There's no guarantee of extra content. It's like a donation, basically.
Yeah.
And I do have merch and stuff, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I do illustration and art in my spare time, and I've always wanted to try and create better merch, but I've just never gotten around to it. The YouTube channel sucks up all my time, basically. But I would say again, if you're working on making a YouTube channel, don't worry that you don't have a big Instagram following. Don't worry that you need to build up your Twitter account and share it on there. YouTube is the biggest platform in the world in some ways. Like it
Yeah.
works better getting your videos out there than probably anywhere else. The only one I think that would be valuable doing is Substack, because I think it just has its own niche audience that is really valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Callum,
that's my
that's
thought.
so helpful. Thank you both so much. I am going to dive into people's questions. So, if you have a question, I'm just going to go through the chat box really quickly, and then I'll call on people here. So feel free to actually, in real life, ask a question. Um, but for a 15, Neil wants to know, for a 15-minute video, how long would you allocate for the editing? And any recommendations for creating great audio, because it's key to a good
Mm.
production.
I imagine we'll have very different
I think we're going to have
answers
very
for
different answers. Um,
yeah, for a 15-minute video for me is like 2 months. So take that what you will.
I would say a 15-minute video from raw footage to on my YouTube channel, 5 hours on a good day. 6 or more if it's sponsored. It just takes a bit more time to get all that stuff in there. So yeah, which is why I can do one a week because that's my average like video length. So yeah, I put more, like I said, I put more time in Substack. At the moment, most of my time is taken up writing the book. When I started, a lot longer, and also I'm also aware you can take as long as a piece of string. Like you
Yeah.
can go,
Mm,
you
exactly.
can really up your production quality, and sometimes that is the better way of doing it. That's something I've considered doing. I might consider doing. I might do drop down actually and do a video every 2 weeks. But at the moment, that's where I'm at. In terms of audio, I think you said,
Yes.
yeah, I use Epidemic Sound, and then I use Adobe as well, Premiere Pro for my video editing. So it's just stuff like adjusting the volume, just to make like it has bars on it basically within that software to see if it's like peaking too high. So it's making sure that it stays like a consistent volume, and it has
Right.
tools within there to help transition audio and things like that. There's some really good free YouTube videos on how to use it that I'd recommend if you are
That's
starting
great.
out with that.
And are these
Yeah, I think
expensive?
the editing process is one of those things where, like you say, it's as long, it's whatever. If you're making something that is live footage that you're cutting up from a camera, it could take you 5 minutes to cut it all together. If you're then dropping in other stuff, then adding another hour or something. If, as it seems we both struggle with, you're trying to find the perfect music for your track, you could spend 5 hours literally just looking for music. So yeah, Neil, it is, and it also depends entirely on your skill level. Editing in Adobe Premiere can be quicker than editing on one that you're not used to, but editing on CapCut on your phone, I don't use it, but it's a very quick, very efficient way of doing it as well too. So it depends on your skill level and what you're making, I suppose. It's not a great answer. In terms of audio, I use a Shure microphone for recording mine, which is quite high level. It's not really necessary. A good basic microphone can be found quite cheap. Always pair it though with a good monitor. Let me just quickly show you this thing. Sorry, I did study audio at college. I am a bit passionate about it, but this is a Scarlett. I'll post a link to it. You should always be buying a microphone and feeding your audio through a good amp if you're wanting to do like kind of these voiceovers with a fancy microphone. These microphones need powered. That said, your phone probably records as good audio as you're going to get these days from this. And if you're putting it on YouTube, they're going to compress it to, to hell and back anyway. And then the person listening to it's listening to it on a pair of old AirPods while they're sitting in the toilet or something. So like, you gotta think for your audience, how much time and money do you want to dedicate to audio quality when most people don't care about that? It's not
Right.
the BBC. So it's something to keep in mind.
Thanks, Callum. And
Just to say on that, sorry, when I started my audio, I just got a little mic that you can just plug into your phone
Yeah.
just to help. Because really bad audio is noticeable. Like if you're just hearing the wind or something and you're trying to hear someone, that's quite annoying. I feel like you can get away more, in my opinion, with poor visuals than poor audio.
Yeah,
But at the same
definitely.
time, it doesn't take that much effort to make decent audio. You just need to be able to hear
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Yeah, the that's actually probably the best thing is when you're filming outside is like one of these. This is a DJI set of mics. There's your little microphone, and you just plug that onto your jumper, and then this bit that just plugs into your phone, and the audio just goes straight in. So when you press
wow.
record, all of a sudden the audio is not being recorded by your phone; it's being recorded by the little microphone. And then make sure that you've got like a dead cat, as they call it, a little fluffy thing, so that if you're recording outside, you don't
Dead
get that
cat.
horrible microphone sound. But yeah, uh, It's set up DJI mics like that. Remote mics are very popular now, and they're great, especially if you're recording with your phone. The audio quality is fantastic on them.
Guys, thank you so much. That's, I feel like it's like a master class in being able for them to do some video production, audio production. Thank you. Um, some other questions. Kim wants to know, did you use ads at the beginning to gain traction, or do you use ads now in terms of what advice on where and when to use? And I would add to that, are ads the same thing as sponsors? Is that
Mhm.
Um, no,
Yeah.
I
Sorry,
don't think
Molly, you
so.
go.
That's not, yeah, sorry. No, I've not used ads and never have and probably won't. Sponsors, when I'm talking about them, is brands coming in and saying, "Can I pay you to integrate, do like talk about a product or a service for 60 to 90 seconds?" Is my usual way of doing it. So they're not helping me get eyes on my video. They're sponsored. They're giving me money basically to feature their products within my video. So yeah, and I've never used ads, so I don't really have any feedback on if they're useful at all. I've just never been
Yeah,
tempted.
it's something to keep in mind, Kim, when you're, what we are talking about are brands approaching us and saying, we would love to pay you to shout out our product in a video, like this video is sponsored by NordVPN or one of these various things that you hear a lot. The other thing you can do, though, is that you can pay to have your video shared online. And Google has an option to do this. You can pay to promote your video on YouTube. I, there are debates. I would not do that. I wouldn't do it. You will pay a lot of money. It will get shared out to people who are not interested in your content. They will click on the video, they won't be interested, and it can sometimes negatively affect them because YouTube is seeing a bunch of people who are not interested in your video, watching your video, and then leaving. So, in the early stages of your channel, focus on your content, audio quality, all these things. Do not fall into the trap of trying to pay to promote your stuff because it can work for websites and products if you've got a product to sell, one thing. But if you're trying to make content like us and grow a channel, I think it can be poison for an early channel startup. So yeah, keep that in mind. Ads to promote your channel, I wouldn't recommend it. Taking on sponsors from the earliest day can work, but remember, a sponsor is going to pay you when they see that you've got a certain amount of views on average per video. That they know that you're at least a safe bet for getting a return on their money. So you're probably going to have to wait a bit before you can get into taking ads and doing ads. It took me years to get to that point, mainly because I was always a bit like, oh no, I don't want to do ads. I don't want to do ads. But now it actually pays for my living and stuff. So it's just the way of the world.
Molly, did you want to add one more thing
I
to
would
the?
also just be say don't sell yourself short too much. So I still get loads of emails every day. Oh, I'll send you this for free if
Mm.
you mention it in your video. Um, I can't live off a free coffee maker, so I need to be like, don't, you can do that occasionally, but I think for me, my audience, I don't want to, first of all, I don't have every video sponsored and that's intentional. I could, but I don't want it to always feel like I have to have like an ad or something in my videos. And I'm very, very careful. Like I only work with up to 5% of the brands that approach me. And I usually now go back and I have like a little foundation of brands that I really trust and believe in and work with them. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things people are just like, you can't live off gifted content. So don't feel like that's all you're going to get because you will get people actually willing to pay for you. A lot of the time, as soon as they send me an Amazon link, I'm like, well, no, because one, you won't pay me. Personally, I'm not really want to be promoting Amazon anyway.
Brand managers are great because they don't care. They're like, no, you pay us an amount. I'm telling you, I can't do that. I'm the exact same. I'm like, it's why I'm a terrible artist too, because like I don't know how much to sell my stuff for. But so
It's
that's
hard.
where this is the more awkward bit of running a channel and doing this kind of thing. But yeah, knowing your worth, I mean, it's the biggest bit of being an artist or making a living off it, isn't it?
And I have one more question for you guys, and I'm sorry we're running out of time. Um, I, I've put your links, by the way, the YouTube links in the chat box. So for folks who are wondering about your websites and things, you can find that through there. And also for prices of things, it's listed on the website, so you can find them online. What is next for you both? So if you want to talk about a project that's close to your heart that's coming up, what is next for you?
Well, my obvious one is the book I'm writing at the moment. I mean, it's a little while away. It's still now a year away from being published. But yeah, that's my start of my author. Hopefully, a longer author career,
That's so
because that's what I
exciting.
want. Yeah, that's what I want to be. I wouldn't. I read an interesting article about on Substack. You can't just be also like death of the author career. Like these days,
Oh,
writing books is rarely enough to live off.
yeah.
And obviously, there's some people that write really big bestsellers, and that's the exception. But I also like the fact that I've got a big long-term project that I can put loads and loads of time and thought and effort into, but I'm also able to connect and put work out and experiment on more of a regular basis. So yeah, so my book is out next spring, Scottish Art, Living Slowly, and that's yeah
Yay.
the big thing that I'm working towards at the moment.
That's so exciting, Molly. Thank you. And we're really looking forward to that. Callum, anything you're
No,
working
I
on?
wish I had a book to promote. This would be that would be so one day. That is one of my long term is. I'd love to write a book. But yeah, no, I've got a couple of projects that I'm working on at the moment. I'm literally working on a couple of videos right now about certain things. I am going out to Ireland in April to do a road trip around and film a whole bunch of different things.
Oh, wow.
This year I'm trying to move away from, trying to figure out, oh, what video is going to do best on my channel, and trying to just do stuff of like, well, here's the thing I'm specifically
Interested
interested
in.
in. And I think that makes such a difference, because it's one thing, I don't know if I mentioned it, but your audience can always tell when you are particularly passionate about a subject. So I'm trying to,
Exactly.
this year is more about that, I think. But like I mentioned earlier, I had a baby last year in June, and I'll be honest,
Congratulations.
I I kind of have lost interest in YouTube in some ways, because I just want to hang out with my baby. And to be
Oh,
honest, all of my personal goals this year are finish building our house and spending as much time with
yeah.
my daughter. So it's not probably the best answer for me looking to grow a YouTube
Those are
channel,
very worthy
but
things, I think, Callum. That's really, really
it's
exciting.
it's been grinding the last few years of making videos and stuff. So I'm trying to maybe create a bit of a better balance, going forward. That's the aim, I suppose, this year.
That's awesome. I want to thank you both so much. It's really rare to be able to kind of look behind the curtain of YouTube a bit and what it is like to be a YouTuber. And you guys are so open and generous with your time and your knowledge. Thank you so, so much. For folks who are not addicted to their channels, please check them out because they're really wonderful and you learn a lot through watching. So for folks who are interested in YouTube, I just recommend watching as much as possible because Callum and Molly's content is just really brilliant. And thank you again, Highlands and Islands Enterprise, for hosting this and having us. So thank you all very, very much. And this will be available for rewatching through Highlands and Islands Enterprise too.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
having me,
again.
Thank
Jessica.
you. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys.